Alright, I thought this could be a fun idea for a video. Back with another tier list video. This time, we are doing general managers for the NFC. NFC general manager tier list. Let's just get into it. Starting off with the Arizona Cardinals are the first team on the list. Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to try to pronounce the name correctly. Monty Ossenfort is the name of the current general manager. First year as general manager, hasn't really done anything. He's from the Titans, so this is just a C tier. I mean, how can you give much of an impact? How can you say much about him given the fact that we just haven't, seen anything from him? We'll see how it goes because they just got a new GM. The Rams are next on this list. The Rams, of course, Les Snead, the guy who, first move he made as GM was trading for trading away the pick that was used for RG3, getting a ton of picks back and proceeding to miss on pretty much every single one. Since then, he has used basically every single first-round pick in a trade to acquire talent, and it worked. It won him a Super Bowl. So I don't know if I'm going to save the S tier, but I'm going to put him in A tier. A tier feels right for me because he won a Super Bowl with a definitive strategy that worked, and more teams might start using it now. So got to put him in A tier. Next up is the Packers. Brian Gutekunst, who some people like it. I'm going to put him in D tier. I really am, because let's view what he's done. He has made some good draft picks, because when you're in the NFL, you're not going to have only good or only bad draft picks. You're going to have a variety. But he inherited Aaron Rodgers, that's just a huge benefit. I mean, if you can get a superstar quarterback, as a GM, you should be competing for Super Bowls. So while they were able to get the conference championships and maybe even could have won them won a Super Bowl had things gone a little bit differently, I think a big reason why they didn't was his lack of going all in. His neglect of the wide receiver position, while it became a meme at a certain point, I think was a massive mistake. I know that the Jordan Love pick was, crucified at the time and has been talked to death, but if they draft T. Higgins there, I think they beat Tampa Bay in the conference championship, and who knows if they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but I think they probably would be favored to win that game, or at least should be favored. So I'm going to put them in the D. I'm going to put him in the D tier right now, personally. And, Rodgers is gone now, or at least we assume he will be, which I think is just an issue. Next up, we have Mickey Loomis of the Saints, which this is an interesting conversation. Where do you put him here? He actually left to being the GM of the Saints to work for the Pelicans organization for a while, is now back with the Saints, so he was there from 2002 to 2012, and then he's back since 2019, so he was there when they won a Super Bowl, and has been there for some good years. I think I'm going to put him in B tier. It hasn't been amazing, and again, did get he had a part in getting Drew Brees over there, so he deserves the credit for that, I would say. And that helped win a Super Bowl for the Saints, so you definitely got to give a ton of credit there. I have some nitpicks as to, I think the Saints probably need to rebuild, and their unwillingness to do so is probably not the best idea, but I still think he's very good. You know what? I might even put him in, I'm going to put him in A tier, actually, because I think he's done enough well. A tier feels right for me. Then we have John Lynch of the 49ers, who has not won a Super Bowl, and that's the only thing keeping him out of S tier for me. Came very close to winning Super Bowls with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think pretty much every move he's made has been great. I mean, there's been some misses in the draft, and the Trey Lance trade so far hasn't worked out for them the way they had hoped, so not every move has worked out, but again, the majority of the moves have worked out. The Deebo Samuel, the Brandon Ayuk, Brock Purdy coming in and playing well. So many, Trent Williams becoming a superstar. They traded just a second-round pick to get him, which seems like a massive underpay at this point. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, that signing has worked out. That hiring has worked out incredibly well. Who I believe Shanahan predates Lynch by a little bit, or it was right around the same time. I can't remember actually now, but either way, I think he's done a lot very well. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is Jason Light, who's been there for a bit now. I'm going to put him in B tier. Listen, Jason Light absolutely deserves credit for the Tom Brady signing. And I know everyone in hindsight will say, oh, you signed Tom Brady. Obviously you were able to win a Super Bowl. Keep in mind, a lot of teams did not want to touch Tom Brady, including Jason Light, who I put in a tier above him. So why is Light still just in B tier then if he built a Super Bowl winning roster? Well, I think it's fair to say he's had just as many misses as hits. This is still the guy who drafted Roberto Agoyo in the second round. This is still the guy who drafted Vernon Hargraves 8th overall. Listen, the life of a GM is you're going to have some misses, but I thought that the Kyle Trask pick, while not quite as offensive as the Jordan Love pick, was still an insane decision by him. And even these past couple drafts, he's failed to get contributors, and I thought should have used some draft picks to try to win right now when Brady is on his way out the door. Probably would have made some sense. So plenty to like about Light, but the reality is, right before Brady got here, if he got fired, no one would have batted an eye. The only reason he really stayed around, it feels like, is because he had a connection with Bruce Arians and felt like he could bring him in, and then, the rest is history. So, again, stuff to like with Jason Light, certainly in B tier, above average, but I don't know if I can put him that much higher. So, moving on to the Carolina Panthers, another kind of a bit of an unknown. Scott Fittner is the general manager who's only been here for a couple of years. My biggest critique, I would say, is that I think he's made some good draft picks, but also has kind of neglected the quarterback position. But at this point, he went up and traded for a quarterback, which I kind of like that move. So I'll go B tier so far. It's still very early, still a bit too early to tell, but as of right now, that feels appropriate. Then we have the Cowboys, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, what more can be said about Jerry Jones that hasn't already been said? Listen, I'm talking about right now, just simply right now, not historically. How good have you been as a GM? How good are you right now? He's not the worst. I'm gonna put it in C tier though. It doesn't feel like it's a great scenario for the Cowboys. I don't know what their ceiling is. There's certainly been some good picks, but I still feel like as a whole, they've yet to build a championship contending roster in decades at this point, with the exception of that 1 year Prescott's rookie season where they still went 1-0 in the playoffs. So how much of that is his fault? Some of it, I'm going to put it in C tier. Maybe some people will fight with me, but again, right now, that's how I feel. We didn't have Ryan Poles. I've been a huge fan of what Ryan Poles has done with this Chicago Bears team. Now, I'm going to put it in B tier just because he's only been here for a couple years. I can't, in good conscience, put him in the same tier as guys like John Lynch and guys like Les Snead. I just can't do it. He hasn't been here long enough, but I've pretty much liked every move he's made, so B tier feels right for me. Then we have another, Brad Holmes for the Lions, who's, again, hasn't been here too long, but I've pretty much liked just about every move that has been made by the Lions. I mean, his first move, he traded away Stafford, which really helped this rebuild and allowed them to be where they are right now. They've drafted well. The Amon-Ra St. Brown trade was good. I'm going to put it in B tier as well, just because, again, hasn't been long enough to put in A tier. I don't think there was anything he could do other than win a Super Bowl to get him into A tier already. But, certainly in a couple years, if I do this again, I could see an A tier potentially. The Minnesota Vikings, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is the general manager, who's, again, another new guy. He was hired in 2020, so only had one season. As of right now, it's still a C tier for me. I like a lot about him. I like the fact that he is an analytically inclined general manager. I like that he did all those trade downs his first season, but we've yet to see him. I think the Kirk Cousins thing is still a question mark for me. Analytics say you don't go after a Kirk Cousins type contract. He extended him, and it's just a bit too early to tell about how this stuff is going to work. He's one of the more intriguing guys on this list, but I don't know if I can put him at number one necessarily, or put him at number one. Put him above number C. Number C. What am I saying? I don't know if I can put him above letter C on this list. Next up, we have Joe Schoen of the New York Giants, who, hired in 2022, made the playoffs. I mean, you got to feel pretty good about that, right? I don't know. I mean, listen, Brian Daboll, the thing that you get credit for is the coaching staff, which is a knockout of the park, and that's probably the only thing keeping it out of D tier for me. I think I'm going to put it in C tier just because I like the coaching staff hires, and at the end of the day, I thought the draft was solid, although unfortunately, as of right now, Evan Neal hasn't necessarily worked out, and there were other tackles on the board, other tackles that, at that point, Akeem Akwan, you had come off the board, but maybe they could have drafted him at 5 and Thibodeau at 7. That one wasn't my favorite, but I'm fine with it. They got good talent out of the draft. That's what you want. Thibodeau's been awesome. But the thing is, I don't love the Daniel Jones contract. I just don't. And I think that last year, making the playoffs was more coaching and luck than it was getting good talent. It's kind of how I viewed it. So, going to have it there. We then have Howie Roseman, who... saying when he goes back is complicated in how much of this stuff he's done, but he's someone who has been a GM. He ended up losing the GM responsibilities to, we saw in the Chip Kelly era, Chip Kelly got the GM responsibilities, but Roseman got it back. Roseman has, had a big hand in building multiple Super Bowl, making the Super Bowl rosters, one winning the Super Bowl. And you know what? I'm going to put him in S tier. I think he's been great. I really don't have many criticisms whatsoever. Another analytically inclined GM who I think has done great work. And, the quarterback situation, having a star quarterback fall off a cliff is a devastating blow, and it should sink most GMs' careers. And the fact that he rebounded and built another Super Bowl contending roster after that is insane, and that's S tier worthy for me. So, said I would save it. S tier, Howie Roseman, there you go. We then have Washington, the Washington football team, Washington Commanders, whatever you want to call them. Martin Mayhew is the guy who, again, hired in 2021, really hasn't done a lot to address the quarterback position is kind of a big criticism. The Sam Howell thing was weird where they drafted him, played him the last game of the season, and now are seemingly okay with going into the season next year with him as at least a backup, but maybe as a starter. I don't know if I love that. I don't really have too much to say. I don't think it's been positive or negative too significantly. There's been some moves that I've liked, some moves that I haven't, but until you address the quarterback position, you're pretty much going to be stuck on C tier, so that's where they are. Another newcomer, Terry Fontenot, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, hired in 2021, and again, kind of given a tough situation. I don't know what you do with the Atlanta Falcons in 2021. I think they have dug themselves out of that situation, so I'll give them credit there, but it still is a complete unknown for me in terms of where are the Falcons going to go from here. They could try to trade up and get a quarterback. I wouldn't hate it if they did that, but as of right now, it is a to be determined, and the rest of this list is also to be determined. I'm splitting it up, NFC and AFC, so that is the NFC list. A lot of C tiers. I'm surprised by that. Only one D tier and one S tier, and then, handful of A and B tiers. So, interestingly, a lot of GMs I feel like are okay, and some of it is just, there's a lot of new GMs that it's not fair to give them a grade this early. But yeah, those are the NFC. Stay tuned. I will put up an AFC video, so be on the lookout for that coming up shortly. I'll probably try to make it later today or tomorrow is when I'll try to post it, so be on the lookout for that. Make sure you're subscribed, all that good stuff. What do you think about this list? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching. Okay, quick error that I'm fixing now. I accidentally put the Seahawks. I didn't include them in this video. That's my bad. I put them in the second part of this video in the AFC tier list by mistake. So definitely check that out if you're interested in it. But yeah, anyways, bye.